Kells, thank you so much for joining us on Life of Chance podcast. I don't know where to begin. There's a lot going on in the world right now, the world of rugby union, but I don't really want to dwell on that. How are you?
Yeah, no, you're right. We were just speaking before you hit record. There's plenty happening. I'm good though. I'm good. Life's good. We're probably not getting the results we're after, or we definitely didn't on the weekend, but we're sort of knocking on the door of where we want to be. So life's good. Can't complain.
That's what we like to hear. I'm just going to start off with some shorter questions and then we'll get into some meaty stuff.
Great.
So
Fantastic.
Nickname, I assume it's Kells. Kellaway.
Spot on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, look, I think everyone has a few, but I won't be. I'm not going to give any airtime to the ones I don't like.
Fair. Is Kells the standard then?
Yeah. I've got to share that with three brothers though. So
this is true. But you are the Kells.
Wow, yeah, depends who you ask.
Did you play other sports growing up other than rugby?
Yep. So I did to begin with cricket and rugby. My mum played cricket professionally and my dad loves cricket. So cricket was the sport for a little while. And then my old man actually he restarted. He didn't start. Right, Huntersville Rugby existed and stopped functioning for a while, and then my old man restarted Huntersville Rugby, so my brothers could get a game. And once that sort of happened, like it was rugby from then on. I mean, I played cricket all the way through high school, and I was actually in the first cricket team before I was in the first rugby team. So I loved my cricket. If I was taller and a bit more gifted with the hand-eye coordination stuff, maybe cricket in another life. But did nippers, but I hated the water. So
it's an awkward one.
I did nippers under the sort of condition that I did all the running and none of the swimming. And then athletics, and you sort of dabble in, as I'm sure you're the same in most young Australians, you dabble in AFL and you dabble in basketball and soccer and whatever's sort of going, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know if everyone dabbles as much and as successfully as you, but definitely there's dabble from everyone. It's important. Hobbies or passions outside of rugby? You're a bit of a golfer, aren't you?
Oh yeah, I don't know if I can call myself a golfer. I enjoy golf.
It's a passion.
Yeah, love golf. Yeah, no, it is. It is a passion. I'm not playing as much golf as I would like now as a 6-month-old. So times are changing, but no, love golf. What else? I mean, I do as best I can. I try and work a day a week, work experience, a day a week with a fund manager in Melbourne. So I mean, look, I don't know if I would call working a passion, but definitely
you're future proofing.
Yeah, definitely an eye on that sort of stuff at the moment. It's very top of mind, and you know what? Actually, like really enjoyable. I found the first day of school feeling for like 6 months, just this like constant feeling of not being good enough is actually, yeah, it's quite rewarding.
Yeah, it keeps you on your toes, makes you like reevaluate all your values and where your strengths.
Oh my God,
lie.
Yeah. What strengths? I've got none of them. To Wednesday morning to Wednesday night, no strengths, just getting coffees.
Oh, well, someone's got to do it.
It's true.
What's your favorite music or a song that you're vibing with right now?
Good question. I'm pretty eclectic. Like I will listen to anything and everything. We get a lot of HP boys down here in Melbourne, so trying to dip my toe into a bit of that. I don't know how I feel about it just yet. I mean, it's not horrible, but probably something country. What I listened to before the game. Actually, I wouldn't say I have a song at the moment. I'm kind of like rolling through a big long old playlist. I'm sort of actually going back, maybe like a Tracy Chapman talking about a revolution, something like that. Something just a bit weird.
Yeah, good. That's good. If you could be any animal, what would you be and why?
I had this discussion like 2 days ago. So we had a couple in this discussion, but I think we landed on you would have to be like a bird of prey, right? Like you get the whole flying thing. Everyone wants that. Everyone wants to fly, but also you're not like a pigeon. You're not getting picked off by by eagles. So maybe like an eagle, a sea eagle. You get the water views and the bird of prey vibe.
Very interesting. Most of the boys have gone with birds, but it's
Yeah.
not. It's definitely not what first comes to mind for me. But I love it. That's an interesting perspective. Says a lot about a person, I think.
I think so too.
So growing up, you're one of one of four boys, all boys.
All boys, yeah, all of us.
And are you the youngest?
Yeah, I've got a twin brother, so we're equal young. Well, I mean, it depends how technical you want to get here, but he is the youngest by a matter of minutes.
Yeah, nice. And okay, so Hunters Hill Rugby Club was, I guess, probably where the passion for rugby or like that real like commitment to the game came about. If your dad was super involved, or where did the
Yeah, I don't know. I think on one hand, like I remember, I will never ever forget, like vividly remember just hating going to Saturday morning rugby because it was so cold. I was just like, stuff this, man, not interested. And I played up an age group, which I also hated because there just wasn't enough people at that point. And I, to tell you the truth, I don't think I started loving it till I got sort of good at it. We'll call it relatively good. And I don't think you can know at that age that you're actually good at it. Like I was just bigger than everyone as a kid. And then got to high school, and I think, as often happens in private schools, rugby is a bit of a thing, or definitely was a bit of a thing. I don't know how it's going at the moment. And I think once that sort of cookie started to crumble, so to speak, I think I started to enjoy it more. Maybe the ego got a nice little kick, and off we went.
So you said that you weren't as good at rugby as you were at cricket, or you weren't as good as quickly. When did you start getting good then at rugby? Like when did you realize I actually am good at this?
Yeah, I think, as I said, like I was a big kid, so I was always probably like getting picked in all the teams and that sort of stuff. But I don't know how like good at rugby I was. I was just bigger than everybody, and yeah, I think when I got probably back into high school, and you go, actually now I'm sort of competing with people my own size, and certainly people caught up. I'm definitely not the biggest anymore. So um, yeah, I would say, yeah, back in the last 2 years of high school, I reckon I really thought, actually, you know what, I could probably do this for a living. Like I enjoy playing rugby. I never have liked training. I still don't. But
Really?
I love playing. I play for free. I play for free, but
Not training
yeah,
for free.
training was going to cost you. Yeah.
So you don't love the process, but you like the outcome, or is it like what is it about the game that you love so much?
Well, who doesn't love game day, right? Like it's the best day of the week. It's whether it's like the adrenaline, whether it's like you get a whole day to sleep and then you play at night or whatever it is. Like it's a responsibility free day until 7 o'clock. It's best day of the week, and then you get to run out into hopefully a packed stadium in front of all these people and do this thing that you spend all week preparing for. I just like it. I think you're right when you say don't like the process, like the outcome. I don't know if it's so much as simple as that. I think it's probably more like putting the practice into action. Like I enjoy that part of it. I don't know. Yeah, it's a hard one to put into words. Really, it's not something I've ever tried to do.
No, that's a like when I said it, it was quite a generic statement because there has to be some part of the process that you're getting something out of to make the game day. Then oh yes, sick, that play worked, or
Yeah,
the chip and chase played off, or the 50-22, like all of that is like a skill that you're developing, but there's the grind in the weekly training that is less
yeah,
desirable by most, I think.
yeah. I reckon so. I think, like, don't get me wrong, hanging out with the boys all day is awesome. Like everyone loves doing that, and I think everyone who doesn't do it probably envies it. But maybe it's like, I don't know. I'm just thinking off the top of my head here. Maybe it's like studying for a test. No one really likes studying, but
No
there's
one really likes the test.
something kind of like vaguely rewarding about doing a test and seeing where you stand. Getting a result and seeing where
Yeah,
you fit into the bigger picture. So maybe that's a good way to explain
yeah,
it, or a bad one. Who knows?
no, I like it. I like it. So you were a bit of a child prodigy, I suppose, in the rugby space. You had a lot of success in those like under 20s and schoolboys eras. I've read that you said you think it all possibly came a little bit too soon. Is that, do you stand by that statement? Or like, there's
I
obviously
do, yeah.
a lot of growth
Um,
early.
yeah, yeah. I mean, like it's a meaty issue. There's a lot there. Yeah, I do. I stand by that. I don't think it necessarily came too early, generally speaking, but just for me, like I wasn't, and I'm only speaking, my experience. I wasn't ready. Like I wasn't ready to compete every day. Like I wasn't ready to put my body on the line. I wasn't ready to prioritize, like all the things that need to be done. I was still a kid in my head, like I wanted to hang out with my mates. And yeah, of course I wanted to play in packed stadiums and play with Israel Folau and Kurtley Beale and Rob Horn and all these guys. But I wasn't, no, I wasn't doing the stuff
to,
during the
to
week to put me
do.
in the best position to do that.
Yeah.
And I just didn't know. You don't know what you don't know. And people often ask, like, do you regret it? And the answer is no, because I just didn't know. Like, I didn't know what I was doing. And, you know, uh, would I do it again? Probably, because it was so much fun. Like, they're the best years of my life, some of those years in New South Wales. But at the same time, I very, very nearly came to a spot where I wasn't a rugby player anymore. So, very grateful it worked out the way it did.
What were there moments where you realized you were, I don't know, were you out of your depth, or whether like it was like that you fell out of love with the image of being a professional athlete? Or
No, I don't think I fell out of love with it. There was like, I could almost list the moments, like exact specific moments where I'm like, oh no, I'm out of depth here, out of my depth here. There's one I remember, we were playing the Hurricanes in Sydney 2016, and I remember getting the ball, and I was just like, I just don't know what to do, like almost panicked, and then did a chip and chase, and I think they caught it and scored. And I remember just standing there going, far out, man, like I'm just not ready. And then I remember a bunch, like getting yelled at for different things that were my fault. And you stand there and you're like, shit, like I almost didn't even know that was my job to do that. And you look back now and go, how could you not know? Like it's so obvious. And I don't know, to me, it's probably just an indication. I just, yeah, as I said, wasn't ready to do the stuff that needed to be done to perform at that level.
did you have like support around you, or like how did you try to overcome those
This is
experiences
where it gets
at the
tricky.
time?
This is where it gets tricky. I had heaps of support around me, heaps. And I just, again, like at the time, and I've said it so much, like it probably sounds like I'm flogging a dead horse here, but I was just such an asshole. Like I wasn't yeah, maybe I wasn't ready to hear those messages. Like you don't know what you don't know, and you can't be told what you're not ready to hear. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely not my proudest sort of portion of my career. They're like the forgotten years, like I'm trying to get them deep down the bottom of the archive and get way past them.
Yeah, which is fair enough. But I also think like when you reflect on your career, and like I want to move into talking about like you going overseas and all of the different life experiences that you've had from rugby. But don't you think that like, we talk about you have to have a lot of hardship to be able to come through and find, where your value is and what you're doing and your why. Like if you didn't almost have it easy at the start to get a taste and then be able to reflect now and look at how much of an asshole you were or whatever it might be, like you wouldn't be who you are as a player now.
Yeah, no, 100%. And as I said, like I don't regret any of it. And again, like I'm super grateful it worked out the way it did, because I got, I've said it again, like it probably again sounds like I'm flogging a dead horse, but some people have to learn those lessons on a job site. Like I've got, could need more hands and toes to count, more hands and feet, sorry, to count the people that I know that have had to learn those lessons sort of after their career because it was cut short because they weren't ready. So look, I was lucky. Yeah, I don't know. Honestly, I wouldn't call it hardship because, like I left the Waratahs. I had 2 bad years with injury. I broke my throat and then I broke my foot. And then I went to the, top 4 club in England, and we played in the finals that year. And then I came home to Melbourne. Then I went to Japan, and Japan had its perks outside of the actual rugby. in terms of what we all know about Japan. So I'm very cautious or very hesitant to call it hardship because it was, it had its perks, and I certainly wouldn't be doing it justice if I said it was hardship. There was heaps of hard parts about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was heaps of hard parts about it, like with all things. But as I said, I think, when I reflect, the main thing, as I've said, is I got to learn those lessons in high performance environments rather than on a work site or an office. And I got to learn them with, some guys who I'm still really good friends with. So again, I look back and think, geez, pretty lucky, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Talk to me about England rugby. So you leave Australian rugby, you go over to England. Was there there obviously is a big difference in the way they play the game. I definitely felt it when I was over in the UK playing. What were your I don't know, highlights or favorite parts about being over in England?
The obvious highlight, and it's something I share with guys who ask about, moving over there, is the community feel. The community feel probably doesn't do it justice. You walk into a packed stadium full of people who care about the team and know about the team, and they know about you, and they're interested in the day-to-day of the team. And I think the way I explain it, and it pains me to do it, is, English rugby, the Premiership, is a little bit like what the NRL is here.
Yeah.
Where they've got a really strong following of people who care a lot about the clubs and care a lot about the players. And there's a really strong interest in the game. And I think, look, I was only there for a year, so just my experience, but I found that the overwhelming feeling towards the game was really positive. I know some people probably don't share that view, but compared to coming back here and every second thing seems to be negative, or as we're talking about sort of before you hit record, there's just so much stuff going on in the game that's not necessarily positive. So I think that was the first thing. And then the second thing, you play so many games. I found that there was so many opportunities to keep fixing things. So it was really we'd have a bad game and you treat it like a bad game, but then it's like, how good, we've got another 40 of these games this year to fix it. And you just keep cracking on and cracking on. And don't get me wrong, I love the sprint of Super Rugby. I love 13 games, just smash them out and get it done. But there was something really cool and unique about playing that many games in a year, and you're flicking between different competitions. And, 1 week you're in France, then you're in Romania, and then you're down at Exeter. And I really, really enjoyed that part of it.
Yeah, the travel side, and definitely the ability to just play. I played so many more games of rugby in a half season over in the UK than I do in Australia at any level.
Spot on.
So that was Northampton, and then you made a little trip to the NPC. Is that right?
Yep.
Straight away from England to New Zealand.
Yep. So I had a two-week holiday. I went to Israel and Croatia with Kyle Godwin, Steve Cummins, Dave Horwitz, and Ed Kennedy. So a couple of us playing in Europe, and we all ducked over for 2 weeks, and then I came back to counties down South Auckland, which was really cool, unique, very, very unique. We were in team was in a bit of a weird spot. We didn't have that many Super Rugby players. We had a couple, Matene Nanas Turo, who's playing on the wing for the Chiefs, Sam Henwood, who was at the Hurricanes at the time, Jonathan Tamatini, who was also at the Hurricanes, myself and Tim Metcher were the only guys who'd actually played Super Rugby. And then Sonny Bill came back and played 2 games with us as well. So we had six sort of Super Rugby guys there for the year. So it was a really interesting experience going against. I think Tasman brought, I think they brought Frizzell off the bench. So they're bringing All Blacks, off the bench, and it's pretty wild. But great experience. And in a weird way, like the learning from that, and I'm assuming you're going to ask, what did I learn there? As an Australian player, we constantly come up against the Kiwis, and they're like on a pedestal. They're so successful, and I mean, they deserve all the praise they get. They keep winning, right? In a Super Rugby sense, but also an international sense. But you go there, and they're just people. Like they're no different to us. They're no different. And that was in such a stupid way. You sort of sit there and you go, like, obviously that's the case. But it certainly changed the way I prepare for those games and the way I feel about them, like on on a personal level.
Yeah, cool. Did you find that New Zealand rugby had a bigger focus on like culture than Australian and English, or just different?
I don't know if I'm qualified to make that call. I was only there for 10 weeks, so I'll be very, very careful about blanket statements. I certainly think they enjoyed like the rugby more. They enjoyed the day to day more. All they want to do is get out and kick the footy. Whereas,
It's a job here.
well, as I said, like at the beginning, I don't particularly enjoy training.
Yeah.
You know, would I choose kicking the footy over hitting a golf ball? Maybe no. So I think that there was a difference for me, at least on that level. And whether or not that sort of transfers up the chain into performance, I don't know.
And now Japan. That was a very diplomatic answer, by the way. Thank you.
Yeah.
Japan, you were with the Green Rockets.
Yeah, mighty Green Rockets.
Well, like I froth over the Japanese rugby because it was the best experience I've had culturally, life-wise, just unreal. I assume everyone that goes there has the same experience. Did you have English speaking coaches or
We had one. So we had Richie Graham from formerly with the Reds and Force. Richie was there as an assistant, and we had two translators as well. So yeah, there was enough English. And look, I did my roommate when I was in Melbourne. So I went from counties to the Rebels, and then COVID hit. Then I went to Japan. And so while I was at the Rebels, my roommate Andrew Deegan also had signed in Japan. So we did sort of a couple of weeks of lessons and got
some basics.
Got there and realized we hadn't even like scratched the surface of Japanese speaking. Sorry, but at the time we thought we were killing it. And I think having made an effort at the beginning to try and speak Japanese, you know, like for the first 3 weeks they just laugh at you and you know that's not how you say that or that's how you do this. But definitely made conversing. You know, the Japanese boys tried hard to speak English and help me where they could. So yeah, no, the English side of it was manageable, really manageable. Lifestyle, fantastic. Loved Japan. Great country. Awesome place to live and experience. The rugby side for us, we were not a very good team. We were getting
pumped.
Touched up is like a polite way to say it. We were losing by like 80 and 90 points. We were getting really, really touched up. And we had a coach who, the boys actually halfway through the year just said, we don't want you coaching us. You're not allowed on the field anymore. So, yeah, it was an interesting experience. But look, great. I love the boys. The boys were fantastic, like cracking bunch of guys. And again, I'll say the thing I noticed there was these guys we'd come in at 8 o'clock, we'd do our weights. Then the boys would go to work. And then they would run from work at 4 o'clock back to the field and train for 3.5 hours. They just would not get off the field. Because it was the highlight of the day, right? Like sitting in an office all day, that sucks. Like get me back to the field. So it was actually a really refreshing. You sit there and you watch they're office workers, some of these guys. They're not professional rugby players, and they are absolutely ripping in for 3.5 hours. It was awesome.
Yeah. Why do you think you guys, I mean, kind of probably going to get a very generic answer here, but why do you think you were losing by so much? Like, was it skill? Was it the fact that the club didn't invest as much as some of the other clubs? Because I know, like, looking at, you know, this year, the difference in how like Honda Heat are being funded versus, you know, Toyota, the Blitz, like there's a massive disparity and you see it in the way that they're playing because they just haven't recruited enough. Is it funding?
Yeah, I reckon that's definitely part of it. Well, I think so. Part of it. I think I know there's sort of a couple of things. Just in my opinion, you have some programs have gone and got professional coaches who have a good background, you know, good pedigree, which doesn't mean everything, but it's certainly helpful. So you think I know Kobe have now got Dave Rennie. I know Kubota have a South African coach. Suntory have had Eddie and various sort of other people come through there. And who else? can't think of any others off the top of my head, but I think that's part of it. So having like a professional coaching staff. I know our coaching staff, with the exception of Richie, who has been a professional coach, came from high school, from university rugby. So again, that doesn't mean that they're worse or better. It just, I think having the pedigree and the experience certainly helps. I think the other thing, the obvious one, is the bigger clubs have more professional Japanese players. So we had none of our Japanese boys were professional. They all worked in the office for NEC. So where our guys are out there taking notes and writing up invoices, the Suntory boys are practicing and they're in the gym or they're doing fitness. So there's just a natural gap there, I think.
Yeah, fair. You do all of these. You've played for incredible teams. You've played for the Waratahs as well. You've played Wallabies. When you talk about like that season you came back to Australian rugby, before, what was it,
21?
Yeah, 21. Back playing Super Rugby for the Rebels. Firstly, what was it, the reason to come back to Australia? Was there a reason, or just the right opportunity?
As this is a long answer. It'll be a long answer because it was a really tricky situation. I'll shorten it as best I can. So I went to Japan during COVID, and the Rebels had offered me a contract to stay, which I wanted to stay. I wanted to stay in Melbourne. I was pretty happy, and being a Wallaby was what I wanted to try and do, which is why I came home from England. But obviously COVID impacted our salaries, and I came back from England on 40 grand a year. So I was sort of like, look, I can't run that risk again, or I can't run the risk of not getting paid again. Got to go. And they were supportive. They said, right, go and come straight back. And I said, yeah, done. I'll sign the deal today. This is before I'd left, and they were pretty keen to get it done. And so I left, and this sort of kept going the whole time I was in Japan. And just maybe naively, I just thought, yeah, like it'll be fine. It'll be sorted. And maybe 6 months into Japan, just still hadn't been sorted, hadn't heard anything, was miserable, like not getting picked. I wasn't getting picked at NEC. All this stuff was happening with the coach. I was so just down the dumps. It sucks, probably being a bit of a victim. And I call my mum. I said, I'm done. I'm retiring. Just not enjoying it. I actually had a couple of meetings. I'd inquired about going to Oxford to study and to play rugby, which Tom Robertson's just gone and done.
Yeah.
So I'd had like very, very preliminary chats about doing that. And then all of a sudden, like, it's time to go home. I'm ready to fly home to Australia, and I get into quarantine. So I had to do my 2 weeks in the hotel, and I'm in there, and I get a phone call from the Waratahs actually saying, we're stuffed. We got no players. Everyone's injured. We need you. Can you? I got out on a Thursday on a Friday, sorry, and they said, can you play Saturday night? And I said, well, I'll play if you give me a contract. Like, if you get a 2-year deal, I'll play. And they said, yeah, shouldn't be a problem. And I called my agent. He said, no, mate, like, they've got no spots. And I said, all right, well, I'm going home and I'll just hang out. And he actually said, well, hold on, I'll call Melbourne back because I know they wanted you. And I said, I hadn't heard anything. I thought that had fallen through. And he called him back, and Melbourne said, oh, yeah, we thought he was coming back. And so the deal was done in sort of 24 hours. And I got back to Melbourne, and there was 4 games left, and played those 4, and then got Ren's picked me for the Wallabies from that. So never looked back.
Huge, because I do remember seeing you come back and play, and be like, as a fan of rugby, so excited to see someone that's gone away come back as a mature, balanced player. Like it felt like you'd come back and you were reading the game better than you'd read before. And I don't know, maybe I'm being a little bit of a fan, but I genuinely was like, that season, you've got to be picked, surely. And then Rennie goes and gives you the opportunity, and you shone in that first year of Wallabies.
Yeah, I remember talking to a guy I used to play against. He played for the Blues and the Storm. He's a coach down here now. And we were just chatting about it, and I said, man, it's funny like how much easier it is when you stop caring. And then I corrected myself. I said, actually, I don't mean care. I still care. Like all I've ever wanted to do since I realized I wanted to play rugby was be a Wallaby. But there was definitely this part there where I was like, I was ready to let it all go. So, who cares? And he said something back to me. He said, yeah, it's like when you choke the bear. So what do you mean? He's like, when you hug the bear too tight, you'll kill it, like it'll stop breathing. And I thought, geez, there's something in that maybe.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm going to go into my couple of classic questions that I've asked everyone around taking chances. There's plenty of chances through your rugby career that are so obvious and you can use any of them or anything you like, but when have you taken a chance and it paid off?
Well, I'll say going to England. In fact, actually, I'll say coming back to Melbourne, because Melbourne were not a successful team, and I think we're sort of still pushing to be more successful than we are and have been. But I think that was a chance. I could have stayed in France. I had an offer to stay in France, and chose to come back. So I reckon that's a chance that worked out pretty well for me.
Love it. And then when has someone taken a chance on you, and why do you think
Same one?
Same. Going back to Melbourne.
Well, I don't think Melbourne had to sign me. They could have signed any young kid, like Samisi Tupu was here, and he's now at Panasonic. Actually, sorry, I think he's at Rico now, but he's an unbelievable footballer. They had a bunch of young guys they could have promoted, or heaps of other guys they could have signed. I was coming back from a not a very good club in Japan on the back of sort of 2 or 3 quiet years of rugby, so they didn't have to sign me.
So why do you think they did?
It's a really, really good question. I have no idea.
I'd love to find out if someday you talk to someone and find out the reason. I think there's always something to it. Like there'll be some reason that they have taken the chance on you when they didn't need to.
We'll have to get Dave Vessels on the phone.
Yeah, we'll have to. That might be my next series of podcasts, is through coaches. Maybe I'll contact everyone that's taken a chance on someone in the podcast. Anyway, we digress. Life outside rugby. You mentioned before you're a new dad. Congratulations. How is
Thank you.
family life going?
It's awesome. It is so much more fun than I thought it would be. I get in trouble for saying that because I think everyone's supposed to think it's the best thing ever, but it is so much fun. Like I'm absolutely loving it. The best thing ever.
That's awesome. Have you got a baby boy?
Boy, yeah, Teddy.
Teddy, gorgeous. And how's your wife going with the?
She's good. She's good.
Feeling the same as you. It's the best thing.
I hope so. I hope so. I think she's finally got a handle on the sleep, so we're going well.
That's important, very important. You mentioned that you're doing a day a week work experience with what did you say, broker?
Fund manager, yeah.
Fund manager. Yeah. Is that like what you want to do, you think, when you finish playing rugby?
I have got, again, no idea. Sorry to give you a garbage answer. I think the process I'm sort of working through at the moment is because I'm doing what I want to do. I'm playing rugby. So the process I'm sort of going with is working backwards. It's what don't I want to do? And the only way I can find out what I don't want to do is by doing it. So look, so far so good. I'm enjoying it, and it's certainly been a steep learning curve. But I think, as I said, working backwards, cross everything off the list, and hopefully settle on something.
Yeah, great. And you're moving to Sydney, or back to Sydney, I suppose, next year. Is that was it part of a family decision, or was it just the next rugby opportunity?
Truth be told, it was so far off the radar. Like it was, again, like I said, after the World Cup, I was pretty flat about everything here, and I thought probably time for me to go overseas and finish up. 2 or 3 years and wrap it up. And as a family, that's what we wanted to do. We both wanted to go overseas, and not wanted to, but we're really open to it. I think having Teddy come along has certainly changed my perspective. I think I want nothing more for him then to grow up with his cousins and his aunties and uncles and grandparents and to be around that. And so, you know, that's sort of definitely the forefront of that decision. But at the same time, I grew up supporting the Waratahs. You know, it was my first club. I've got so many great memories there. So yeah, excited to get back.
Awesome. We're excited to have you. Two more questions and then we're done. I don't know if you're much of a reader, but are you reading or listening to anything at the moment that makes you think that's not rugby related?
Yeah, the best book I've ever read. The Men Who Bought the World. It's about the commodity traders in the late 90s and early 2000s. Awesome book. Even if you're not interested in finance, these people were like, I don't know how they were doing what they were doing. It's so cool.
Awesome. I'll read it. Add it to the list.
Highly recommend.
And my last question for you is, do you have a piece of advice that you would give to your younger self?
Yep. Yeah, I would. I think the one thing, and it's easy to say now, looking back, I would say just compete for everything. Like I was very complacent, as I sort of have said at the beginning of this. I think everything you do away from the game, in the game, like it's so important to put yourself in the best position you can be in. And as I said, probably for 4 years, 5 years of my career, I wasn't doing that. So just compete for everything, be competitive, want to get better, want to be the best. There's nothing wrong with trying to be the best and not getting there. There's a lot wrong with not trying to be the best, though, in my eyes.
Rate it. Thanks so much for joining us today, Kellaway.